Back with you here on FST Fantasy Sports Today on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. If you're thinking of giving DFS a try, check out Fantasy Factor. It's a perfect daily fantasy site for the casual recreational player. Flatter prize pool, smaller field, single entry contests only. Fantasy Factor runs NHL and NBA free rolls each and every week. They're free to enter, so sign up today at www.fantasyfactor.com. With that, we bring in the good doctor down in the A. It's Dr. A from Inside Injuries. What's going on, Doc?
Good morning, guys. Corey, you seem to gain some weight since the last time I saw you.
Oh, remember I was Jeff last week. Yeah. No, he's not trying to come for me.
No, but you did say the other day he was coming for you.
No, I got it. How you doing? Good morning, Doc. How's everything going?
Everything is good. It's a nice, sunny, 78-degree day in Atlanta. I heard you guys are experiencing a warm front in New York. So
I had a
that's
little
good.
one. There was one yesterday. It was a one-day warm front, Doc. Now this morning it's raining and it's back to kind of regular. It's real nice out there. You can't even see the buildings behind you. I haven't received my Inside Injury scrubs yet. I don't know.
I noticed you did request those.
Yeah, I have not received them yet. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you guys will get some at some point in the future. We shall see.
Maybe that lady in your building's wearing them.
Yeah, I know, right?
That was a crazy story. You know what? I got an update for that. I got an update for you later on in the show in regards to that. But, Doc, while we have you, I want to start off. We were talking a lot yesterday on some of our other shows about the Mets pitchers, and in particular Noah Syndergaard, because he has the ability to, quite honestly, finish as the best pitcher in baseball. Like, he has that kind of stuff. But people are hesitant to draft him this year because of missing all of last year with a severe lat injury, and he comes back and he gained a bunch of weight last year. He immediately had bicep tendonitis, then he tore his lat, and he shouldn't have pitched, and then he pitched, and then he got hurt. It was like the most Met story ever. Now, we come into this year, what's the deal with Noah Syndergaard? Did he lose some of this weight? Is he back to where he is? What's going on with Syndergaard?
So first of all, from a medical standpoint, the good news is that he didn't have surgery last year. The injury was in May. I know he came back, and I remember specifically at that time we talked about him, and our algorithm said he should not be playing. He should not be pitching. He needs more time to be shut down. And obviously then he developed another injury, created a bone spur in his elbow, and 17 was the biceps and the right lateral muscle tear. So the good news is that he's way past optimal recovery time, meaning in terms of his ability to heal. So his HPF is very close to getting to peak health before the beginning of the season. But you hit the nail on the head. For some reason, his injury risk is way out of whack. I mean, at this time of the season, right before opening day, you expect to see close to low, maybe a little bit elevated to 13-14%. I mean, this guy is at 26%. So he's like the quintessential high risk, high reward guy. He's going to be healthy from that injury, but his risk factor is so high that, you guys, whoever are Syndergaard owners, they must have another starting pitcher that, because you have to expect him to, at least miss a good portion of the season due to injury this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the trepidation of not. I just can't do it right now. I'm going to take DeGrom over him.
Well, that was a discussion that we had yesterday.
Yeah,
Do you take DeGrom over him?
I took Strasburg over him. I think they're pretty much on par. But Strasburg at least pitched 175 innings.
Right.
Strasburg might,
He's 10% over the normal starting pitcher with these types of injuries than others. So it's, we're literally telling everybody that we expect him to miss a good portion of the season.
All right, there you go.
Crazy
right
with
there.
Noah Syndergaard, man. They're telling you they expect him to miss a big portion of the season.
They've been right so far. Doc, what's the deal with
Crazy.
Kawhi Leonard? Hearing reports out of San Antonio.
This crazy story. This story is crazy with Kawhi Leonard.
The story is wild with Kawhi Leonard. It really is, Doc.
Yep.
Don't know what's going on here. Now we're hearing reports that he could very well miss the entire season. It doesn't seem like this should be an entire season thing, Doc.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues is that he's exacerbated and kind of set himself back through rehab. It's never quite fully healed. Again, you cannot work out or get intense on a muscle if it's not fully healed, especially in basketball and especially the quad, because that's mainly what's responsible for your explosiveness on the basketball court. Now, this is a very textbook sort of quintessential, again, case between team and player. I mean, they're not on the same page. The team docs and the team are saying one thing, while the Kawhi's doctors and evaluation, they're saying another thing. Honestly, if we had to come down on a side, we would say that we would side with Kawhi because, he is. All of our algorithms are saying that. He's nowhere near ready to start playing basketball again because of multiple setbacks. This grade 3 quad, and then he had a partial tear in his left shoulder last month, probably because of some compensatory injury. So we would have to side with Kawhi here. Our algorithms just show that he's not ready yet. He's not at peak health, and he has a very high injury risk still.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about Kawhi Leonard coming up later on in the show because I think you do have some thoughts about it, Corey, and I do too. It's very strange what's going on in San Antonio. We're not quite used to this, Matt.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunate, but I'll look forward to that conversation. Doc, I want to go back to the Diamond. I want to talk about one of the burgeoning superstars and a young guy who was injured late last year. A guy I really like. You're getting a little bit of a discount. He was a second rounder last year, getting him in third. He was even available in the fourth of my latest. But Corey Seager, I keep hearing he still hasn't really tested out the arm. He's had the elbow problem. He had a back injury. What can you tell us about him?
So at Inside Injuries, we've had a manual discussion about Corey Seager, and there's something missing here, guys. The team is not telling us something. Just mark my words here. We originally had him at a grade 1 elbow. He should not be an issue of conversation of whether they should hold him off from full intensity throwing so much time later after that original injury. So. He must have had a much more serious injury when he did have that injury. And so, that is because of those comments, his injury risk has shot up now from what it was close to low. Now it's at high injury risk because we feel that the original injury was much more severe. And just to give you guys a list of the other 2017 injuries besides elbow, he had a grade 1 back, a grade 1 hamstring, and a grade 1 oblique all in one season. So he's got all of these ticky-tack type of injuries, which may or may not be true. I mean, sometimes teams are very good at masking and disguising, even for our algorithms, even though we get to them almost eventually at some point. So, we feel that he's now sort of pushed into a below average high injury risk category because that original elbow injury was a lot more severe than they let on.
We're talking to Dr. Ray from Inside Injuries, and there you go. So, Matt.
That's a shame, though. This is a guy
a really good young player.
Pretty much a solid 300 hitter, could hit 30 home runs, and he's a big dude, too. He's like 6'4", 220.
Yeah. I'll continue to be the Mets guy here. We talked about Noah Syndergaard, who, you project to miss quite a bit of the season. What about their other top hitting prospect here? Not prospect, but top hitter in Michael Conforto, who is having one heck of a season last year and then has this freak injury and completely tears himself apart. We've heard May 1st. We've heard May 15th. What's the deal with Michael Conforto?
Yeah, and we nothing has changed from last week when we talked, and the dislocated shoulder injured a lot more than just the rotator cuff. It looks like obviously the torn posterior capsule, significant labral injury, thumb, hand, back, hamstring injuries in 17 as well. He is. They said maybe May. We are projecting that he comes possibly back before the All-Star break. So he's still nowhere near ready to come back, and he still has to go through that rehab. And you don't want an Andrew Luck situation with these labral injuries. Pretty significant one. They have to make sure they take him sensitively. Very slow in his recovery. Then he'll be after the All-Star break. So we're projecting right around the All-Star break.
I think Doc's right on that. I mean, you want to have injury optimism. You look at May 1st. I would say June 1st at the earliest.
Yeah.
Now, Doc, can I ask you one question? Like, when you saw that injury that Conforto got, when you got to see the replay of it, what is like your initial reaction? Do you have like a thing that like pops out to you or anything?
Well, when I saw it, we really didn't know originally right away if it was a dislocation. When I heard it was a dislocation, I said, oh, okay. Like, hopefully he's one of the 80% of the people that dislocates their shoulder and doesn't have any other injuries.
Right.
And then when I heard that he had all these other injuries, then that's where all of the negativity comes from that, basically. But most people, when they dislocate their shoulder, pops back in, there's really no other injury, and then that if that just happened to him, he probably would have been playing a portion of last season. But unfortunately, he had all of these other injuries associated. And when you do it to yourself, when you dislocate the shoulder by swinging as opposed to getting hit, that means it is likely has a torque effect on it and pulls a lot of other stuff with it, and that's what happened. He had so many more injuries associated with the dislocation.
Yeah, when I watched that, I felt like my shoulder hurt.
I did want to ask you, Corey's rotator cuff was bothering him yesterday, and I wanted to ask you, Doc, if Corey's going to be okay.
Well, the more important question is, what was Corey doing?
Corey, your response.
I'm sorry, Corey.
No, it's fine, Doc. I was resting, and I woke up with some discomfort in my shoulder once again.
You went reaching for that bottle a little too far.
Speaking of
Just
shoulders,
say it was a tennis injury.
Yeah,
Doc,
tennis injury.
Doc, do you have a couple more minutes to hang out with us? Because we're talking about shoulder injuries. I want to talk about Hanley Ramirez, and I think it's important in this Red Sox lineup. I also want to talk about Matt Carpenter's back because
Danny Salazar.
I like Matt Carpenter, and Mr. Danny Salazar sits to my left in Matt Modica. So there's a lot more that we want to get to when it comes to these injuries. So do you have a couple minutes to hang out with us?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so let's take a break here. We'll pause. We got more Dr. A coming in a few moments after the break, including hearing about, as I mentioned, Hanley Ramirez, Matt Carpenter, Danny Salazar, and we're going to find out if it's not just talent that Arizona doesn't like, Matt, about Yasmani Tomas. Maybe there's an injury there too. Maybe.
Could very well be. I mean, look, he should be in the American League.
Yes.
The DH was created for you.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about those guys, and including some young guys potentially too, with Dr. A. Dr. A of Inside Injuries continues on here with us on FST. We'll be back on FNTSY right after this. Corey, according to my Twitter, today is officially National Margarita Day.
Oh, okay, that's what's up. I'm not a margarita guy, so I will not be partaking in that today. Sorry about that.
You a margarita?
I like frozen margarita.
Oh, I love a nice frozen margarita.
Frozen margarita is good.
Doc,
A regular, my wife likes the regular margarita.
I'll drink
That
anything.
doesn't do
I'll
it.
drink anything. Doc, are you a margarita guy?
I am not a margarita guy. I'm a tequila guy.
Okay.
A fine tequila guy. On the
Fine
rocks.
tequila guy on the rocks.
Yeah.
Corey is withholding something from speaking.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm Doc's a tequila guy. You know me. I'm non-alcoholic.
Yeah, you just give you a beer.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. All right, talking to Dr. Ray, Inside Injuries, who hangs out with us today, FST, Fantasy Sports Today. And I want to get into Matt Carpenter, a guy that I see just last and last and last on draft boards. And I get it. He's getting a little older. He's got some back stiffness and tightness in there. But this is a guy that certainly just knows how to get on base. Hitting on top of a Cardinals lineup, whether he plays first base, second base, third base, plays everywhere for the Cardinals. And maybe it was a down year overall, but the batted ball profile makes it seem like he's going to be really good this year, and he's costing you nothing in drafts. Is Matt Carpenter healthy, and should he be drafted, Dr. A?
Yeah, so I mean, the back injury is just a grade 1, so nothing significant. I'm sorry, not the back. He had a grade 1 back, and then in the 17 season, he had a right shoulder injury, just a little bit of inflammation, no rotator cuff tear or any ligament tear. So this optimal recovery time for this type of injury for a first baseman is 2 weeks, and so after those 2 weeks, without any setbacks, he should be back and very close to peak health to start the season. So from an injury and a medical standpoint, he should be really good to go before the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I just think if this guy's healthy, there is a 30-plus home run season in his bat.
I agree, and the on-base percentage is amazing. Like, you look at the batted ball profile, Matt Carpenter over the last couple of days.
Yeah, him
crazy.
and Kyle Seager. They hit
100%.
tons of fly balls, hit the ball hard.
170 is his price right now in the NFBC.
And I'll say one more thing. He's a first baseman, so first basemans don't really move very much, on the field. So, if he was a third baseman or a shortstop or something like that, or outfielder, that back would be, a lot more, sort of impactful. But because he's a first baseman, 2 weeks, he should be good to go, ready for the season. So, yeah, he could be a sleeper for somebody.
Matt Carpenter is one of those guys that you wake up the next morning, just 2 for 5, right?
Look, the only time he went where he shouldn't have went was in the mixed labor draft. That
Yeah.
was a little crazy. But
Yeah.
otherwise,
Absolutely. Why don't you ask about your boy? You want to go?
No, go ahead. Y'all got it. No, apparently me and Dr. A not supposed to be speaking to each other today. So y'all go ahead. Y'all got it. I'm sorry.
Well, I want Matt to be asked about his player.
No, and I agree. Matt should ask about his player. Should I go?
No, please stay.
All right.
You're going to probably go too early in like 3
I didn't know
hours.
Jake Seeley joined the show early.
Oh!
Hey, Doc, Danny Salazar, he's a guy that is one of the upside arms I've been targeting. Over the last 3 months I've been drafting. I understand the risk, but I'm looking at what the reward could be. They recently said last month he had some shoulder stiffness or whatever. Please give me some positive news.
Positive news is that he didn't tear the rotator cuff. He had grade 1 rotator cuff inflammation. If he rests and goes through this therapy, that should be completely healed. The problem is, like you said, he's a high-risk, high-reward guy. Grade 1 elbow and shoulder injuries in 17. He did make 19 starts and 4 relief appearances in 17, but he's chronically nagged by these type of throwing arm injuries. And so when you have you see these multiple injuries on the throwing arm, he's going to be at elevated to high injury risk. But from his shoulder injury, he should be at peak health starting the season. So he's a classic high-risk, high-reward guy.
Salazar, that's
That's
pretty
the
much
best news I could have expected.
I agree. That was actually good news from Dr. Ray. But it's like also, that's kind of what the story of his career is, right? Ultimate high reward, high risk guy. That's Danny Salazar, Corey.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for Dr. Ray?
Did we ask about Hanley Ramirez yet?
No.
Dr. A.
Just paying attention.
Well, you guys shunned me from the interview. Now that I am been invited back, I would take my time to ask Dr. A about Hanley Ramirez because I don't feel like Hanley Ramirez should be washed up yet, but apparently he is.
Yes, left shoulder arthroscopy. The good news is that it's an arthroscopy and debridement because he's probably developed early osteoarthritis or arthritis in that shoulder, so it has to be constantly debrided because it's developing, loose bodies of some sort. But that's not the only issue. He dealt with this thing for much of the season last year. Obviously, it affected his play on the field. Host of injuries over his career, and this is a stage in his career where if you add up all the games that he's played, he has just got a lot of wear and tear on him, and so he's going to be at high injury risk and likely below average to poor predictive performance no matter what happens. So I don't, from a medical standpoint, I just don't know why anybody would choose him.
It's interesting because Hanley Ramirez, not only does he had that long medical history, Doc, but a lot of it is revolving the shoulders, right? Like it's not just his first shoulder injury. There's been a lot of shoulder problems in his career.
Yeah, no, and he's been able to get through some of them, but now, the age is catching up. I mean, he's 1 year older, and he's just not going to be able to overcome that now, in our estimation, this year.
Yeah, Hanley Ramirez, even though he's going to bat third, people should not be in on him, according to Dr. A.
Yeah, the problem, look, he's not costing you anything. The problem I have is, if you take him supremely late, one of those last picks, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But I don't see him getting those at bats, whatever it's going to be, that vest that $22 million.
Right, and as Matt always likes to say, it always comes back down to the money, and ultimately that's probably true.
Especially when you're paying J.D. Martinez $25 million.
Especially when you're paying
take another $22 million.
J.D. Martinez $25 million. Speaking of J.D. Martinez, he signs with Boston a couple of days ago, and Boston and Arizona immediately goes out, signs Gerard Dyson, trades for Steven Souza, and that kind of leaves Yasmani Tomas as as really the odd man out. He was somebody that I think last year people were very much in on. I drafted him. I wanted to drop him before the end of April. He went through a myriad of injuries, and people are kind of getting back in here early this winter. And now Arizona has gone pretty much and replaced him. Is it all performance related, or is there some underlying injury issues when it comes to Yasmani Tomas?
Well, so first of all, when you hear the word core muscle surgery, they're maybe trying to avoid the term sports hernia surgery. So that's number one, okay? It's very, like I said all the time, sports hernia surgeries and core muscle surgeries, however, whatever you want to call them, they highly recur. They often have complications like he did, which is developed a lot of scar tissue. It's very painful, has to be removed, and that's the key. He had another surgery after the surgery, and so that's going to significantly impact his ability on the field. And he's had multitude of that area of injuries, right groin tendonitis in June, left oblique strain during spring training in 17. So he's one of these guys in that area. Unfortunately, it's highly recurrent. It's going to come up again. He played only 47 games last season. He should have recovered from a medical standpoint. He should be recovered by opening day. However, he is, his injury risk of getting another type of recurrent sports hernia type of injury is very high. The 50% of the season is what we are projecting in terms of what he will be able to play, maximum.
Matt, Doc's saying 50% of the season he'll be healthy. And how much of the healthy season is he going to be even on the field?
I rarely do this, but he's never been on my board this year.
Never.
I don't see the reason to take Yosmani Tomas. Do we got time for one more?
Yeah, you got time for one more, sure.
A guy off the radar that is an interesting cat is Matt Strahm with the Padres. If pitching in that park, he gets a rotation spot. What's the word on his recovery?
All right, so the good news is that it's very hard to come back from a grade 4 patellar tendon injury. Knee injury, but patellar tendon. It means he tore the patellar tendon, had to get reconstructed. The good news is that he is he's a left-handed pitcher, so that left knee that he just got repaired is sort of like the starting knee. It's not the plant knee, which is very important because a significant amount of force comes onto that plant knee, and so that's really, really good. He's had plenty of time to recover, and so we expect him to be sort of at peak health by spring training. And so we don't really see any other issues unless he has any sort of setback that we hear of before the season.
Matt Strahm's always been a favorite of the experts in the draft nits. Matt, is this season it all comes together for Matt Strahm?
It's somebody like maybe ended the draft to take a fluff. He's a guy that this is what spring training's for. This is a guy you watch in spring training. He gets a rotation spot at Petco. He's definitely a person of interest.
Corey, we were talking a lot about shoulders and rotator cuffs and whatnot. I'd be remiss not to ask you about your favorite tight end, Alshon Jeffrey, who had rotator cuff surgery.
Yeah. It was a success, though.
It was a success.
It was a success, and he should be good. He should be good to go for the start of training camp.
Rotator cuff surgery, Doc. Just in general, it's not it's not a small surgery, right? I mean, like for football players, it takes a while to come back.
Yeah, Rachel and Virginia did an article on this yesterday. When you have rotator cuff tears and you play through it, there's a lot of instability in the shoulder. It still will stay intact, but there's a high risk of dislocating, relocating, injuring the labrum. Because that humeral head is moving all over the place in the joint because it's not being fixed. And so the surgery is going to be a lot more significant, and what I hope and what that he does not have is the, and I hate to keep saying this, but the Andrew Luck syndrome again, where he plays through injury, it damages the labrum to the point, but the good news is that he's not throwing the football.
Right.
So he can probably get back and recover from this injury, and he should be okay for next season.
So there you go. That's with Alshon Jeffrey. Something you're gonna have to.
That's what I just told you.
Well, not really. I mean, like there's a major chance of a setback here.
I just said before Dr. A confirmed. I just said that he had surgery. It was a success, and he should be ready to go for the start of the season.
You didn't tell me how serious the surgery was, though.
No, I did not. But I figured you knew that.
No, I wasn't positive. Dr. A, we appreciate the time. We'll do it again next week, my friend.
All right, guys. Have a good week.
Awesome. Absolutely. When we come back, another retread in football. What a surprise. Corey Parson will give his take of Marty Ernie. Coming up next.